She stole a black teen's invention, but the hidden millionaire had other plans. He watched quietly from the crowd as a white student took credit for a black teen's invention. But when the truth came out, the millionaire in the back stood up. And what he did next left everyone speechless. It all started in a school science fair. One moment of cruelty, one act of theft, and one man who refused to stay silent. But what he revealed at the end would not only expose the lie, it would change that boy's life forever. The gymnasium buzzed with pride and tension. Colorful posters, homemade robots, and bright lights filled the air as students presented their science projects. But in one quiet corner, Marcus, a 16-year-old black student with sharp eyes and calloused hands, stood beside a small invention that looked almost too good to be real. A compact energy converter, made from scrap metal, batteries, and an old radio circuit. For weeks, Marcus had stayed up past midnight in his small apartment, soldering parts while his grandmother dozed off on the couch. His dream was simple, to prove that brilliance had no color. He smiled nervously as people walked by, most ignoring him, a few whispering. But one person didn't just pass, he stopped. An older man, dressed in a dark suit and expensive watch, stood silently at the back. He didn't speak, just observed. No one knew who he was, but his eyes followed every detail. Moments later, Ryan, a popular white student, strutted toward Marcus's table. He was known for charm, not intelligence. But he had powerful parents and an ego to match. He leaned closer to Marcus's device. "Nice work," he smirked. "Did you actually make this?" Marcus nodded politely. "Yeah, it converts kinetic energy into electrical current. I used recycled—" Ryan cut him off, laughing. "Sure you did." He turned to his friends. "This guy probably found it online." The group chuckled as Marcus tried to defend himself, but before he could, the teacher, Mrs. Langford, approached. "What's going on here?" she asked. "Nothing," Ryan said quickly. "I was just saying, this project looks exactly like the one I submitted last week." "I think he copied me." The teacher's eyes flickered with hesitation, then landed on Marcus. "Is that true?" Marcus's stomach dropped. "No, ma'am. I built this myself. You can check my notebook. All my sketches are there." Mrs. Langford frowned. "Well, we'll investigate. But if it's true you copied someone else's work, Marcus, you'll be disqualified." Ryan smirked as Marcus's world began to crumble. He wanted to shout, to fight back, but his voice felt trapped inside his chest. In the crowd, the millionaire in the back, Mr. Jennings, a silent sponsor of the event, crossed his arms. He had built his fortune through inventions of his own, and he knew genius when he saw it. He leaned toward the event organizer. "What's that boy's name?" "Marcus," the man whispered. "Good kid, but you know how things are. No connections." Jennings didn't respond. He just watched, his expression unreadable. But deep down, something in his chest tightened. A memory, perhaps of when he was that boy. As Ryan walked away with smug confidence, Marcus looked down at his invention, his only hope, and whispered to himself, "One day, they'll see." Little did he know, the man quietly watching from the corner had already seen everything, and when the moment came, he'd make sure the world did too. The auditorium lights dimmed as the final presentations ended. Nervous laughter and whispers filled the air. On the stage, the judges gathered to announce the winners. Marcus sat in the second row, his hands trembling over his knees. His invention sat quietly on the side table, ignored, while Ryan's project, a shiny, neatly packaged version of Marcus's own design, stood front and center. "Third place?" the announcer began. Cheers erupted. Marcus barely looked up. "Second place goes to Ryan Carter for his innovative energy converter." Applause exploded across the hall. Marcus's head jerked up. His throat went dry. Ryan stepped up proudly, holding the same design Marcus had built with his own hands. He turned just enough to smirk at Marcus as the teacher placed a silver medal around his neck. "Told you hard work pays off," Ryan whispered, loud enough for only Marcus to hear. Laughter from a few students echoed in Marcus's mind like a slow knife twisting deeper. But in the back row, Mr. Jennings, the millionaire sponsor, was no longer sitting still. He had been quiet all evening, but now he leaned forward, tapping something on his phone. The event organizer beside him noticed. "Sir, everything all right?" Jennings's eyes didn't move from the stage. "I just need a few details about that boy Marcus." Moments later, the principal took the microphone. "Before we move to the grand prize, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, especially Mr. Edward Jennings, who—" Jennings stood abruptly. The microphone feedback squealed. All eyes turned toward him. "I'd like to make a small observation," he said calmly. "May I see Ryan's project up close?" The hall went silent. Ryan's smile stiffened. The principal hesitated but nodded. Jennings stepped forward, his polished shoes clicking against the wooden floor. He examined the device for a few seconds, then looked directly at Marcus. "You built one of these too, didn't you, son?" Marcus froze. "Yes, sir. But they said—" "I know what they said," Jennings interrupted gently. "And I'd like to see yours too." Marcus hesitated, then picked up his small, rough-looking model and brought it to the stage. Jennings placed both devices side by side, then quietly flipped a hidden switch on each. Ryan's device flickered weakly and died. Marcus's model, however, hummed alive, a soft glow pulsing through its wires. Gasps spread through the room like wildfire. Jennings smiled faintly. "This one actually works." Ryan's face turned red. "That's because his is different," Jennings cut in, his voice sharper now. "Different because it's original, not a copy." The teacher stepped forward awkwardly. "Mr. Jennings, I'm sure there's a misunderstanding." "Exactly," Jennings said, turning toward her. "A misunderstanding that cost this young man his dignity." The crowd went completely silent. Ryan's friends looked away. Even the judges exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jennings turned back to Marcus. "You remind me of myself at your age. I built my first invention in a garage. Nobody believed it was mine either." Marcus blinked in disbelief. You built the kinetic drive prototype, didn't you?" Jennings smiled. "I did. And I know genius when I see it." He looked out toward the audience. "I'm sponsoring a new scholarship for innovation. It goes to the student who creates, not copies. Congratulations, Marcus." The hall erupted, some in applause, others in shameful silence. Marcus couldn't move. His eyes glistened, but as Jennings placed a hand on his shoulder, he whispered something that no one else could hear. "Let them underestimate you. It makes success that much louder." The truth was out, but some people can't handle being exposed. What happened after the award ceremony would prove that racism doesn't end when the lights go off. Sometimes it just hides in the dark. That night, the school's celebration photos hit social media. Marcus standing beside the millionaire, holding his small but brilliant invention. Comments flooded in. "Finally, justice. That kid deserved it." But not everyone was happy. Across town in a luxurious dining room, Mr. Carter, Ryan's father, slammed his phone on the table. "Do you realize what this looks like? You embarrassed our family in front of the sponsors." Ryan shifted in his chair. "Dad, I didn't think he'd find out. It was just..." "Just what?" Mr. Carter snapped. "A black kid who got lucky? You had one job, to win. And now our name's trending for the wrong reasons." He turned to his wife. "We can't let this story spread. I'll make a few calls. That Jennings guy doesn't control the narrative." The next morning, the school principal received an unexpected call. A donation offer, generous enough to rebuild half the gym, came with one condition. Remove Marcus's name from the official winners list and keep the event neutral. The principal hesitated, but Mr. Jennings was the sponsor. The voice on the other end was cold. "Sponsors change. Money stays." Meanwhile, Marcus sat in his small living room, the TV playing the replay of the award ceremony. His grandmother smiled proudly. "I told you, baby," she said softly. "Your hard work would speak for itself." Marcus tried to smile back, but his phone buzzed. He opened the school's website. His name was gone from the winners section. His chest tightened. They took it down. Before he could say more, a knock sounded at the door. Standing outside, wearing the same black coat as before, Mr. Jennings. "Morning, Marcus," he said with a gentle smile. "Mind if I come in?" Marcus nodded, speechless. Jennings sat down, glancing at the old couch and the framed photo of Marcus's late parents. "I saw what happened online," Jennings said calmly. "They're trying to bury the story, but that's all right. Let them." Marcus frowned. "All right, they erased me like it never happened." Jennings leaned forward. "Do you know what happens when the world tries to erase the truth? The truth finds a louder way to speak." He pulled out a small card and handed it to Marcus. "Tomorrow morning, meet me here. Bring your invention." Marcus looked down. The address led to a private tech lab downtown. His eyes widened. "You're serious?" Jennings smiled faintly. "Completely." The next day, Marcus entered a world he'd never seen before. Glass walls, humming machines, scientists moving like clockwork. Jennings introduced him to the team. "Everyone, this is Marcus. He's here because he built something real." For the first time, Marcus wasn't treated like an outsider. He was respected. Hours passed as Jennings's engineers studied his invention. "Sir," one of them said, "his converter is more efficient than our prototype. It could be revolutionary." Jennings smiled proudly at Marcus. Told you genius has no color. But as hope returned to Marcus's eyes, Jennings's phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen. Keep your distance. The Carters don't forget humiliation. Jennings's jaw tightened. He knew what that meant. The battle wasn't over, it had just begun. The boardroom was filled with polished shoes, expensive watches, and fake smiles. Everyone waited as the millionaire entered, holding a small file in his hand. The woman who had stolen the black teen's invention stood at the front, her voice trembling slightly but masked with confidence as she presented her product to the investors. The millionaire took a seat at the far end of the table, silent, observing. He'd seen the whole thing unfold quietly, how she'd taken the idea, erased the teen's name, and planned to make millions from his hard work. But today he wasn't here to argue, he was here to reveal. As she finished her pitch, applause filled the room. Cameras flashed. The woman smiled proudly, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Then the millionaire rose. "Impressive presentation," he said slowly, walking toward the screen. "But before we finalize anything, I want to show everyone a short clip." He pressed a button on his remote, and the lights dimmed. The video began playing. Grainy footage from the teen's small garage. Everyone watched as the boy worked late into the night, covered in sweat and oil, adjusting wires, testing circuits, and recording his progress. His voice trembled with passion as he explained the concept. The same concept that had just been presented minutes ago. The room went silent. The investor's eyes widened. The woman's smile faded instantly. When the video ended, the millionaire looked around and said, "This is the real inventor." Whispers filled the room. One investor muttered, "You mean she stole it?" Another shook his head in disbelief. The woman tried to speak, her voice cracking. I just helped him. He wanted guidance." The millionaire cut her off. "No, you wanted credit." His tone was calm, but every word hit harder than a shout. Then he walked to the door. A young black teen stepped in, nervous, holding his worn-out backpack. Everyone stared as he stood beside the millionaire, eyes darting between the investors and the woman who had betrayed him. "This," the millionaire said proudly, "is the real mind behind the project, and I've decided to fund him personally. He deserves a platform, not pity." The woman stood frozen, realizing her career was over. The investors rose, shaking the teen's hand. Some clapped. Others simply nodded in respect. Tears welled up in the boy's eyes as the millionaire whispered, "You didn't lose your idea. You just needed the right people to see it." That day changed everything. The millionaire not only exposed the fraud, but signed the teen as his co-founder in a new startup that would soon change the tech industry. Months later, the same invention appeared on the front page of major newspapers. But this time, with the right name attached, the young inventor stood beside the millionaire, smiling proudly. Reporters asked him how it felt to finally get justice. The boy simply said, "You don't need to shout to be heard. Just let your work speak, and the right people will listen." The millionaire placed a hand on his shoulder and added quietly, "Sometimes silence is power." Until it's time to speak. The cameras flashed. The world watched. And the woman who once tried to steal his dream watched from the shadows as the boy she underestimated became everything. She wanted to be respected, celebrated, and unstoppable. Because real success isn't about who shouts the loudest. It's about who stands for the truth when no one else does.